Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and welcome to June's Q&A video. Just a reminder, if you have a question that you'd like to see answered in one of these videos, please leave it in the comments below. I just keep a great big rolling document of all the questions I get, and then when it comes time to make a video, I pull from that, so there's no need to re-ask if you've asked in the past. But yeah, let's dive in. Roxanne wanted to know what my sort of more basic inventory looks like, the sorts of things that I use a lot that go into lots of different concoctions. So I would say one of the first things would be a couple different oils in different weights or different absorption speeds. So like a faster absorbing oil, and if you're just going to get a couple things, like get a cheap one, something like safflower oil or sweet almond oil or apricot kernel oil is great. And then maybe something a little slower absorbing if you like that. If you don't like sort of greasier things, you certainly don't have to. I also find that you can kind of like double that up if you want a slower absorbing thing, but then you also want to kind of move into butters, which is like my next category. Make your soft butter a heavier butter, so something like shea butter, or if you like lighter things, mango butter is a good choice. And then I always recommend getting a brittle butter, and cocoa butter is a great choice because it's really, really easy to get, and it's sort of fairly inexpensive in the world of butters since it's sort of more common than a lot of the other more brittle butters. And then you can choose the deodorized version if you don't love the smell of chocolate, but I love the smell of chocolate, so I always get the stuff that smells amazing. I would definitely put beeswax on the list of things that I use a lot. It definitely comes up in a ton of, lip balms and body balms and that sort of thing. And then also an emulsifying wax, because you cannot use beeswax instead of an emulsifying wax. If you're trying to keep your stash pretty low and pretty simple, I would probably recommend something like Polawax or Emulsifying Wax NF, because those are both really simple to use. Some of the more sort of natural ones like Olive 1000 or Emulsimulse, Retamulse, they can be a little trickier or like a little less tolerant of varying like oil phase sizes. So yeah, that would definitely be a thing if you want to make any kind of lotion. And then of course, if you're making any kind of lotion, you will need a preservative of some variety, and I like to recommend Liquid Germall Plus because it's really easy to use. It's very versatile. It is very effective at low rates. It's effective in a wide range of sort of pHs. It's a really good choice for home crafters. I definitely would recommend having a humectant of some kind. Vegetable glycerin is inexpensive and super versatile, so if you're just going to get one, I would recommend that one. And then I like having a hydrolyzed protein around. This one's a little less optional, but I tend to put, or a little more optional, sorry, but I tend to put hydrolyzed silk in a lot of things. You could also look at something like hydrolyzed oat proteins or sea kelp bioferment, but that one's definitely, like a little fancier. And then in the scent department, you obviously don't have to make anything scented if you don't want to, but a couple favorite like fragrance oils or essential oils, and that is of course totally up to you. That's all personal preference. Are also good things to have on hand, and those things you can buy in fairly small bottles, and the small bottles will last you quite a while if you're not making soap. Soap is a whole different can of worms, so yeah, this answer is definitely skincare themed. Miccah wanted to know what recipe I would recommend for a total newbie, and I'm going to take this opportunity to plug my free DIY for Beginners e-course. So I'll throw the link in the description box below so you can go sign up. It's all via email and it's all free and automated, so you'll get a welcome email right away, and then in 24 hours you'll get a shopping list. It's a short shopping list, and then I give you about a week to get all those ingredients together. You can get pretty much everything on Amazon, and then I start sending you recipes about every 4 days that you can make and sort of build your confidence, make a bunch of different things with a short selection of ingredients. It's pretty fun. I'm pretty proud of it. There's videos and free PDF downloads for everything, and this is exclusive content. You can only get it via email, so definitely don't unsubscribe from them or delete them, because that's it. So yeah, that is what I'd recommend for a total newbie. Raquel had a question about the types of products that I travel with, and she wanted to know, am I more likely to customize those products for my destination, or am I more likely to continue using something that I have been using for a while so that I don't, my skin and hair are already adjusted to that product. I'm very lucky in that my skin and hair doesn't really seem to experience adjustment periods. With the exception of retinol, which made everything very, very angry, generally speaking, I have quite tolerant skin, so I don't worry too much about switching up a facial cleanser or a moisturizer when I go on a trip. I do find that the changes I make to the things that I travel with are much more influenced by a previous trip and the things that I have, maybe observed or learned on that previous trip than they would be for the destination. So for instance, when I was going to Australia and New Zealand, I took the time to develop and make before I left solid versions of a foaming facial cleanser and a cleansing balm or a cleansing oil so that I could have them in push-up sticks, and I'll throw links to these in the description box below so that I didn't always have to have clean hands when I went to wash my face. I could just kind of rub the thing on my face and then go down with a microfiber cloth and wipe it off. So that would be sort of one adjustment that I've made based on sort of previous trips, or another one is I'm kind of starting to move away from bar cleansers and shampoos and things because they're if you're traveling a lot, they have to dry out before you can pack them. Well, I guess you can pack them when they're wet, but they get destroyed in your bag. They get absolutely smooshed and whatnot. So I've started working on more concentrated versions of those things. So they're liquid, but super concentrated, so they don't take up a lot of room, but they also don't have to dry out. So I'll throw a link to one of those in the description box as well. But yeah, those are the ways that I sort of tend to adjust my skincare routine when I travel. Chloe wanted to know, if you have a recipe and there's something in there that's called for in a small amount, something like maybe silk peptides at 2 or 3%, and you don't have it and you want to leave it out, do you need to compensate for it with other things? And the answer is, yeah, you should. For water-soluble things that go in the water phase, if you don't have a comparable ingredient, like for instance, if it was hydrolyzed silk you were looking to swap out or get rid of, you could use something like hydrolyzed oat proteins instead. But if you don't have anything that's kind of in that family, you'd replace it with more water. Or if it was an oil soluble ingredient, like say the recipe called for 2 or 3% cetyl alcohol, you would want to replace it with more oil. You could use more liquid oil that will make for a less viscous product, or you could use something like a shea butter or cocoa butter that will contribute some small amount of thickening, though really nothing close to what the cetyl alcohol is going to contribute. So yeah, when you're removing something, you should replace it with other things that come from the same phase as the thing that you are taking out of the recipe, and do try to think about what that ingredient is doing in a recipe so that you can try to compensate for that a little bit with whatever it is that you do decide to make up the difference with. Lastly, Nicole wanted to know what are sort of my 5 must-have ingredients that I get all panicky about when I don't have things that I'm absolutely running out to replace, that this is a priority. I've managed to hone this down to 5. The first one I'm going to say is labdanum, and that is kind of a twofold thing. One is that I love the way it smells, but 2 is that New Directions Aromatics discontinued it. So when I run out, I have no idea where I'm gonna get more of it. I found a couple suppliers for it, but it's always way more expensive than it was from New Directions Aromatics, and I really like using this stuff very liberally. So that one will definitely sort of catch me in the when I run out. Really good rose hydrosol. So Voyageur Soap and Candle has the most amazing rose hydrosol, and ever since I sort of discovered it, it's I never ever want to be without it because it just, it's amazing. So that. Some sort of an emulsifying wax. I make a lot of emulsified things, a lot of lotions especially, so I would definitely always want to be, in stock of some type of emulsifying wax. I usually have 4 or 5. Right now I have Emulsifying Wax NF, Polawax, BTMS 50, and Emulsimulsin or Retamulse, and all of them 1000. You don't need 5. Nobody really needs 5. There's so many more too. But yeah, I would always want at least one of those on hand, and if I ran out of it, I would definitely replace it. For surfactant-y concoctions, cocamidopropyl betaine goes in pretty much everything I make. It's more of a secondary surfactant, it's amphoteric, and when you add it to blends, it helps make them sort of more gentle. So yeah, I tend to put that in everything I make that uses surfactants. So yeah, I recently ran out and immediately had to run to Windy Point and buy another bottle because I gotta have it. And lastly, we'll say vegetable glycerin, just because it goes in so many things. I don't think I'm at risk of running out of it anytime soon, because at some point in time I decided it would be a great idea to buy a 4-liter jug of it. But yeah, vegetable glycerin is definitely something I always want to have on hand. All right, and that is this month's Q&A video. I hope you learned something. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, and do remember to check that description box for links to things that I talked about in this video. And yeah, check out my blog, because there's over 1,000 posts up there and tons of useful information and like a whole FAQ section. It's great. You could lose yourself in there for days. So yeah, thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.